Okay, in this video, we are going to again look into basic sketching techniques in Fusion 360. I have a new file open, as a new design. It is right now in my projects folder that I'm going to store this file, but we'll do that later. It's a blank workspace, as you can see. One thing to remember, the origin is hidden, but if you click this bulb here, you can see your coordinate system. Again, just to go over what we talked about in the last video, remember that there's X, Y, and Z, 3 coordinates and 3 axes. You're working in 3D. So accordingly, there are 3 planes, coordinate planes that you can work on to make a sketch. This is important to remember. You have to always start a sketch on a plane, one of these 3 planes, or on a 3D plane on an object. We will see that towards the end of this video. So if you choose to keep this origin on, you can leave this bulb lit, or if you don't want to see that, you can take it off. I prefer to keep it off. We're going to start by making sure we are in the model workspace, not in another workspace. So this is in the model workspace, and in this workspace I can use these menus here to start sketching. I am also going to make sure that some of my settings are set. So for example, I just want to make sure I don't want the layout grid. It's kind of confusing or distracting, so I'm going to keep it unchecked. I will also check my display settings. Yes, in the camera, I'm going to make sure that it is perspective with ortho faces. Go ahead and do that. If it is not, if another one is clicked, make sure you can switch it to perspective with ortho faces. And let's see, you don't need to do anything else in this menu over here. That's good enough. We can now start by saying that we want to sketch a line. We're going to sketch a 2D image, and then we're going to see how we can make that into 3D. There are many ways to make it into 3D, but we'll look at just one way of doing it, easy way of doing it. I'm going to start by saying I want to sketch, let's say, a rectangle. There are many ways you can do a rectangle. I'm just going to take, for now, for this exercise, a 2-point rectangle. So I click on R, or I can say either click on this, or I can directly go to the keyboard and hit R, and this option will come up. As you can see, it will ask, where do I want to start my sketch? On which plane do I want to start my sketch? I'm going to pick the XY plane. Just click it with the left button, and it will click the plane. And now it switches to that plane. So now your workspace has become 2D basically. And remember, we took the 2-point rectangle. So it says place your first corner. I'm just going to make a random rectangle. I'm going to put my first corner here. Just left click with the mouse button. Move the mouse. I'm not holding the left click down. I'm just moving it. And I say I want my second corner to be here. So I will left click it again. And it puts my rectangle in place for me. You see, it is still ready to do another rectangle if I want to. But I just want one rectangle. So I can hit the escape key. And we're back to just the mouse pointer. So I have a rectangle, and now I can zoom in, zoom out. I can take a look at the rectangle, but remember, this is 2D. This is just sketched on the XY plane. There is nothing 3D about it. So how do I make this 3D now? If I wanted to make this into a rectangular block or a rectangular prism, a very easy way to do that is you either use the keyboard, hit the button Q, or you can go to this menu here and basically modify menu, and you'll see there's a press pull option, which is the Q. The shortcut is Q. So I'm going to click on that, and you notice how it kind of moved into a 3D perspective. The cube is now in 3D over here, and I see this menu. This is my help kind of that indicates what I need to do next. It's telling me that I need to select something. What do I want to press or pull? And just follow along here. I'm going to select this complete rectangle. So as you can see, if I move my mouse, it kind of changes color, and if I click on it, it has now selected it, and something appears, an arrow appears. What this is telling me is that I can take this rectangle that I made in 2D, and I can now make a 3D shape out of it by pressing it or pulling it. So I'm going to hold with the left mouse button this arrow and start moving the arrow. You can see it becomes a block in this direction or the other direction. You can move it however you want along that arrow line in that direction, and it makes it a 3D. I'm just going to take a random size. I'm just going to leave it there. You can see there's a size indicated, 30 millimeters. I moved that rectangle plane by 30 millimeters, and that's how thick my block has become. There's multiple options, as you can see in this menu over here on the right. I only extended it to one side by 30 millimeters, but if I actually chose an option for two sides, I can specify how much to the left and how much to the right. Or if I do symmetric, it will make the same amount of thickness on both sides of my original plane or my original rectangle. As you can see, it switches to both sides now. Symmetric, I got 30 on this side and 30 on the other side. So there's multiple options. I'm just going to keep it at the one side right now, just to show you that basically what that does is you went from a 2D. So if you remember, there was only a sketch before, and as soon as I hit OK here, you'll see that I'm asking it to create a new body out of it, a new 3D body. So let's try that. I say OK, and as you can see in the menu here, or in the browser here, now I have something called a body that showed up. Initially there was only a sketch. If you remember, that's my sketch. I'm going to hide this body for now. This is my sketch. It's still there. The original sketch is still here, but we made a body out of that. So I'm going to hide my sketch, and you can see now I have a body. A new body is created, body 1 it's called over here. So your browser shows you the organization of your part or your assembly that you're going to make. And now I have a body. I can do the regular manipulations to see it from different sides. I can either use the cube to look at it from the top. I click on it. That's how it looks from the top. That's how it looks from the front. Or if I hit this home button, it goes back to 3D isometric view. As you can see, I can zoom in, zoom out. If you remember, I can also move this block by hitting the center mouse button, or holding the center mouse button and just dragging. That would move the part. But if I hold the center mouse button and the shift button at the same time, it would turn the part. So you can look at it from different sides. So this is how you manipulate and look at parts from different views, different sides. Or you can use the cube to do that. You just have to go to different parts of the cube, and it shows you the view that you're asking for. So we made our first body out of a simple sketch, which was a rectangle. And now one more thing to show you. If you remember, we had to start that sketch on one of these origin planes because there was nowhere else to start it. But now that you have a body, you can do another sketch, and you can use one of these surfaces to start your sketch. So for example, if I wanted to put a hole in this block over here, all the way through the block, I could say that I'm going to sketch a circle so that I can make the circle into a hole. So let's start by doing a circle sketch, and it's going to say, where do I want to put the sketch? Do I want to put it on those 3 coordinate planes, or do I want to pick this surface? Since I want the hole in the block, I'm gonna make it on this surface. So let's say I pick this surface there, it turned into 2D again to show me that where you want to put the circle now. This circle basically is saying place the center point. So I'm gonna place it right in the middle of this block here, if this is the middle. Okay, I clicked once, and if I now move my mouse, it starts to draw a circle. I'm just gonna pick a random size and hit the left mouse button again, and it put a circle for me. Remember, it's ready to draw another circle now. Look at the mouse button. So I'm gonna hit escape to get out of that mode, and there I have my circle. And just like before, now I'm going to go back into a 3D view. I hit this home button here. I have a 2D circle sketched on this surface of my 3D block, and I want to make it a hole. So I'm going to again do the same thing, go and modify this and use the press pull command or the Q command, and it says what do I want to select. And right now I can't see my circle. Why is that? It's because I've turned this, all sketches are turned off over here. I'm gonna go back, bring it back on. There's my circle. As you can see, when I move my mouse, it now picks two different surfaces. The selection can be this surface or the circular surface, and since I want to do it on the circular one, I'm gonna left mouse click, pick that surface, and again I see the arrow. Now if I want to put a hole, I cannot go in this direction, I need to go in the opposite direction. As you can see, doing that, it automatically understands that the operation should be cut. It's going to cut a hole through the block, and I can say how I want to do it again. One side, two sides, symmetric, whatever. I'm going to leave it as one side. I can also say how far I want the hole to go, or I can say I want it to go to a certain object, which means in this case, for example, I know I want it to go to the opposite face. So I'm going to take this to object, and it's going to now say, okay, then select your object. I'm going to turn my block around and say that I want it to come up to this face over here. I just select this face. As you can see, it automatically made the hole up to this face. And I'm going to say okay. It's going to cut it. There. Now I have a block with a hole in it, and it goes right through to the other face. And as you can see, there's still one body, and it has two sketches which we used to make that body. So I'm gonna go ahead and say save this design and call it block with hole in my practice folder. Saved it. So there's a version 0 of this first 3D block and hole that we created.